My mother, after I broke my back, she told me, you need to remember that it happened to you for a reason.
The doctor said, no, now the wheelchair is your life.
In my mind, I was put on this earth to play hockey. It's all I've wanted to do since I came out of the womb.
I think the most thing I love about the sport is getting to be the best version of myself.
If you're fearless, you'll crash anyway.
Without sport in my life, I do not know where I am.
You know, every day bad things happen to everybody on this earth, and it's how you take these negatives and move on. And I don't think there's a better example out there than the Paralympics.
This is the best life I can have, I think.
I want to be the best in the world, but I also want to do that for others. I want to show what people with disabilities are capable of.
No disability or impairment should stop you doing what you want.
We are disabled athletes, but we can do the same thing than the able athletes.
I've met the best people in my life through Paralympic sport.
Hello class, my name is Mark and our group topic is the Winter Paralympic Games. Our subtopics for this subject is the history of the Paralympic Winter Games, the sports played in the Winter Paralympic Games, the viewership in the Winter Paralympics, and the successful athletes that have played in the Winter Paralympic Games. So without further ado, enjoy our slide. Thanks. Hello class, my name is Mark and I'm here to talk about the history of the Winter Paralympic Games. The Winter Paralympic Games is an international multi-sport event where athletes with physical disabilities compete in snow and ice sports. This includes athletes with mobility disabilities, amputation, blindness, and cerebral palsy. The Winter Paralympic Games are held every 4 years, directly following the Winter Olympic Games, and are hosted by the city that has hosted the Winter Olympic Games. The medals are awarded as first for gold, second for silver, and third for bronze, following the tradition that in the Olympic Games started in 1904. The Winter Paralympic Games first started in 1976 in Örnsköldsvik, Sweden. This was also the first Paralympics that featured athletes other than wheelchair athletes. The origins of the Winter Paralympic Games are much similar to Summer Paralympic Games, in which injured soldiers from World War II sought sports as an avenue to healing. A guy by the name of Sepp Zwixnagel was a pioneer of snow sports for disabled athletes who was a double-leg amputee Austrian skier who has experimented skiing using prosthetics. His work helped pioneer technological advances for people with disabilities who wish to participate for winter sports. The main events for the Winter Paralympic Games were alpine skiing and Nordic skiing for amputees and visually impaired athletes. In 1992, the Winter Paralympics were the first Winter Games to use the same facilities as the Winter Olympics. Overall, the Winter Paralympic Games should get enough recognition as the Winter Olympic Games because of the blood, sweat, and tears the athletes have put in, and we should help as one universe to recognize greatness at its best. So here I have a video of the 1976 cross-country skiing at the first official Paralympic Winter Games in Sweden. Thank you.
In this segment, I'll be talking about the viewership in the Winter Paralympic Games from the past events. I'll be covering the broadcasting aspect of viewership along with the actual spectator attendance. Firstly, I'll cover the broadcasting of the Paralympic Games. Prior to the Games, the International Paralympic Committee partnered with the International Olympic Committee streaming service, which is the Olympic channel for the online streaming coverage of the Games. 100 countries showed the Games through 47 different broadcasters. So, for example, in the United States, they showed the Games on NBC Sports, and Canada showed the Games on CBC with over 600 hours of coverage. An international audience of 1.4 billion viewers was set at Sochi 2014, and South Korea did break that record. This means that the Paralympic Games are starting to gain more viewers from other audiences outside of the host country's viewers. The Olympics in 2016 drew in 3.6 billion viewers, and comparing that to the Paralympics is almost double the viewership. So we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Prior to what was mentioned before, the Paralympics have in the past gotten very little media coverage. The trend is going in the right direction with more broadcasts covering the Paralympics, but it is still extremely overshadowed compared to the Olympics. A possibility would be to market both the Olympics and Paralympics together to get more eyes on the Paralympics, and also do a better job of showcasing the athletes and their stories. In relation to spectator attendance, the 2018 Pyeongchang opening ceremony was attended by 21,000 people, which is 72.5% of the possible tickets. And in the first 3 days of the competition, 105,000 tickets were purchased, which is a turnout rate of 75%. The total amount of tickets equates to around 320,000, and it is a record for Para Games. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the 2018 Olympics sold 655,000 tickets, which is a lower number for the Olympics, even though it is still double the amount compared to the Para tickets that were sold. In conclusion, the athletes themselves should get more exposure, and the marketing can be improved greatly. There has been appropriate steps taken in picking up more broadcast partners and reaching broader audiences, but there is still more that can be done.
Hi, my name is Coach Jason. I'm here to talk to you about the 6 sports involved in the Winter Paralympics. We'll start off with 3 sports that have the 3 exact categories for them. That is alpine skiing, that is biathlon, and cross-country skiing. These 3 sports have the same 3 categories, in which are the standing up, sitting down, and the visually impaired. So the standing up are athletes that are missing one of their lower body limbs or an upper body limb, which they're still able to stand up and participate in the sport. Number 2 is our athletes that are sitting down. These are athletes that are missing 2 body limbs in their lower body or are paralyzed and are only able to move their torso and participate in the sport. And our number 3 is the visually impaired. These are athletes that are blind, they can't see, or athletes that have very, very little visibility and they need a radio or a headphone that they wear so that they're guided through the event. Next, we'll talk about our sledge hockey. Sledge hockey is run like regular hockey. It's 3 periods, 15 minutes each. Athletes are sitting down on a sledge, pushing around on the sticks, trying to score goals. That's how it's run. Has overtime, has penalty shootouts. And then we have our snowboarding Paralympics athletes. So these athletes, they have specific classification systems which athletes classify under. There is athletes that have severe disability to both lower body limbs. They have athletes with just severe disability with one lower body limb. And there's athletes that are moderate disability on both, athletes with moderate disability on one, and then athletes that are disabled on both upper body limbs, and athletes that are disabled on one, then athletes that are partially disabled on an upper body limb and lower body limb. Also, as well as athletes that are sitting down. These are athletes that are disabled on both body limbs, athletes that are either partially functional limbs, and as well as athletes that are disabled on both limbs but have good trunk function. Alright, and our final sport is wheelchair curling. These are our athletes that are sitting down and they either throw the rock or they use the stick and push off the rock. In wheelchair curling, there is no sweeping of the ice due to The only rule is you got to push it through the stick. And that is all. Those are 6 sports that athletes can participate in the Winter Paralympics.
All right, so in this segment, I'm going to be giving you guys some tips about how to find out more information about the Winter Paralympics and the Paralympics as a whole, as well as how to get involved if that's something that you'd be interested in. So first, a great way to find out more about the Winter Paralympics is to familiarize yourselves with the athletes who participate in these events. It's really amazing to see the accomplishments that these athletes have received despite living with an impairment. For example, Brian McKeever, he is a cross-country skier who's visually impaired, and he's won over 13 medals, 10 of which being gold. And then there's also Michelle Salt, who had her leg amputated. She was the first female athlete on Canada's first Paris snowboarding team. And then another great way to find out more information is to regularly visit www.paralympics.org. So this website's a great way to find out about all news that are related to Parasport or Paralympics or the Winter Paralympics. And it also includes a schedule of any Parasport events or competitions that are coming up.